He watched miracles unfold with his own eyes. He broke bread with the Son of God. He was trusted with the money. He was called by name. He was one of the 12. But on one cold night in Jerusalem, he would make a choice that would echo through eternity. 30 pieces of silver, a kiss in the dark, and a rope in the morning. This is the final 24 hours of Judas Iscariot, the disciple who had everything, and threw it all away for the price of a slave. What drives a man to betray the Messiah? Was it always planned? Or did something inside him slowly break? Stay with me, because this story will challenge everything you think you know about betrayal, regret, and the thin line between redemption and despair. Before we dive into that final night, we need to answer 3 haunting questions. Was Judas always destined to betray Jesus? Or did he make a choice? What was really going through his mind when he kissed Jesus in that garden? And here's the one that will keep you watching. What happened in the final minutes before Judas took his own life? What did he see? What did he realize? And was there still time to turn back? By the end of this documentary, you'll understand why this isn't just ancient history. It's a mirror, one that reflects choices we all face. To understand how it all ended, we have to go back to how it began. Judas Iscariot, a name that will become synonymous with betrayal. But long before that dark night, he was just a man. The Bible doesn't tell us much about his early life. But we know this: Jesus chose him. Not randomly, not by accident. He chose him. Imagine that moment. You're a young man in first century Judea. Life is hard. Rome occupies your land. Taxes crush your family. Hope is scarce. And then you hear about a teacher, a healer, a man who speaks with authority unlike anything you've ever heard. His name is Jesus of Nazareth. And one day he looks at you, really looks at you, and says, "Follow me." Judas said yes. He joined Peter, James, John, and 8 others, the inner circle, the 12 apostles. He witnessed the impossible. Blind eyes opened, lepers cleansed, a girl raised from the dead. He didn't just hear about these miracles secondhand. He was there. He even performed miracles himself. Jesus sent the 12 out, 2 by 2, to heal the sick and cast out demons in his name. Judas Iscariot held the power of God in his hands. But something else happened along the way. Jesus gave Judas a specific role: treasurer, keeper of the money bag. It seemed like an honor, a position of trust. But the Gospel of John tells us something darker. Judas was a thief. He was in charge of the money bag and used to help himself to what was put into it. Small compromises, secret sins, hidden greed. No one else knew. Not yet. Darkness doesn't announce itself. It grows quietly, in the moments when no one is watching. And Judas was about to reach a breaking point. 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany. He was invited to dinner at the home of Simon the leper, a man Jesus had healed. The disciples were there, including Judas. And then something happened that would change everything. A woman named Mary took a pound of expensive perfume, pure nard, worth a year's wages, and poured it on Jesus' feet. The room filled with the fragrance. But one voice broke the silence. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. It was Judas. On the surface, it sounded noble, compassionate even. But John's gospel reveals the truth. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. Jesus defended Mary, and in front of everyone, he rebuked Judas indirectly. Leave her alone. She has done a beautiful thing. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. Something shifted in Judas that night. Public rebuke, lost opportunity for money, wounded pride, and perhaps the realization that Jesus wasn't going to be the kind of king Judas wanted him to be. No army, no political revolution, no earthly kingdom, just sacrifice, just humility, just this. Matthew tells us what happened next. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests. Not the next week, not after prayer or reflection. Immediately, the seed had been planted. And now, it was about to take root. If you're still with me at this point, I want to know. Drop a comment right now and just say, "I'm still here." Let's see how many of you are truly invested in this story. Because what comes next is going to shock you. Judas didn't go to the religious leaders during the day. He went in secret, under the cover of darkness. The same darkness that was now growing inside him. The chief priests and scribes have been looking for a way to arrest Jesus quietly. They fear the crowds. They needed someone on the inside. And here comes Judas Iscariot, one of Jesus' own disciples, walking through their door. What are you willing to give me if I deliver him to you? They weighed out 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave according to Exodus 21, the price of the Messiah according to Judas. And he agreed. From that moment on, Judas began looking for an opportunity to hand Jesus over, when the crowd wasn't around. But here's what haunts me. For the next few days, Judas continued to walk with Jesus. He heard him teach. He watched him heal. He sat beside him at meals, all while planning his arrest. What goes through a person's mind in those moments? Does guilt creep in? Does he justify it? Does he tell himself lies? This is for the greater good. Or Jesus can handle himself. Or is his heart already so hardened that he feels nothing? Then came the day of unleavened bread. Jesus sent Peter and John to prepare the Passover meal. And that evening, the 12 gathered in an upper room, including Judas. This would be the last meal they would ever share. As they were eating, Jesus did something unexpected. He got up from the table, took off his outer garment, wrapped a towel around his waist, and began to wash the disciples' feet, the act of a servant, the lowest position in the household. And when he came to Judas, he washed his feet too. Think about that. Jesus, knowing what Judas was about to do, knelt down and washed the feet of his betrayer. After he finished, he sat back down, and then he said it. Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. The room went silent. Fear, confusion, disbelief. One by one, they began to ask, Lord, is it I? Surely not I. Is it me? Even Judas asked the question, Surely not I, Rabbi? And Jesus answered him quietly, You have said so. Then Jesus spoke again. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born. Can you imagine hearing those words and still going through with it? But Judas didn't stop. Jesus took a piece of bread, dipped it, and gave it to Judas. And the Bible says, as soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered into him. This wasn't possession earlier. This was a final step, the full surrender to darkness. Jesus looked at him and said, What you are about to do quickly. Judas stood up and walked out of that room. And John adds this haunting detail. And it was night, not just outside, but inside. Jesus and the remaining 11 disciples left the upper room and walked to the Garden of Gethsemane, a place they had been many times before. Jesus went deeper into the garden to pray, and he prayed with such agony that his sweat became like drops of blood. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. Meanwhile, Judas was leading a cohort of soldiers, along with officers from the chief priests and Pharisees. Torches, weapons, ropes, all for one man. And Judas had given them a signal. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him. Jesus stood up. He woke Peter, James, and John. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. And out of the darkness, Judas appeared. He walked right up to Jesus. Greetings, Rabbi, he said, and he kissed him. A kiss, the ultimate sign of love and respect in that culture, used as a weapon. But here's the part that breaks me. Jesus didn't curse him, didn't push him away. He looked at Judas and said, Friend, do what you came for. Friend, even in betrayal, even in that moment, Jesus still called him friend. The soldiers seized Jesus. Peter drew a sword and cut off the ear of the high priest's servant. But Jesus healed the man's ear and rebuked Peter. Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me? And then all the disciples fled, including Judas. He had done his part. He had delivered Jesus. And now, there was nothing left to do but wait. The trial was a mockery, false witnesses, contradictory testimonies. Illegal proceedings in the middle of the night, but the verdict was already decided. They wanted him dead. And somewhere in Jerusalem, Judas waited. Maybe he thought Jesus would escape. Maybe he thought Jesus would call down legions of angels. Maybe he thought this was all part of some bigger plan. But when the news reached him, Jesus of Nazareth has been condemned to death. Something inside Judas shattered. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. The weight of what he had done came crashing down. Judas ran back to the chief priests and elders. Desperate, panicked, broken. "I have sinned," he cried out, "for I betrayed innocent blood." Their response was ice cold. "What is that to us?" "That's your responsibility." The same men who paid him 30 pieces of silver, the same men who used him, now abandoned him. Sin will always leave you alone in the end. Judas threw the silver coins into the temple. They hit the stone floor. Clink, 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 blood money echoing in a holy place. But money couldn't undo what was done. He stumbled out of the temple. Matthew tells us he went out and hanged himself. The disciple who walked with light died in darkness. But here's what haunts me most. At that very moment, while Judas was ending his life, Jesus was being led to Golgotha. The cross was being prepared, and Jesus was about to die for the very sin Judas couldn't escape. The forgiveness Judas needed was about to be purchased, but he never came back for it. You see, another disciple betrayed Jesus that same night. Peter. 3 times, Peter denied even knowing Jesus. "I don't know the man," he shouted by fire, cursing. And when the rooster crowed, Peter remembered Jesus' words, and he wept bitterly. Both men betrayed Jesus. Both men were filled with regret, but only one came back. Peter ran to the empty tomb. Peter received forgiveness. Peter was restored. Judas ran to despair. That was the difference. One chose grace. One chose the grave. And here's the question that should shake us all. How many of us are closer to Judas than we think? How many of us have walked with Jesus, but kept a secret sin? How many of us have heard the truth, but chose money, pride, or comfort instead? How many of us feel the weight of guilt, but run away instead of running back? Judas teaches us something terrifying. You can be close to Jesus and still be far from him. You can hear his voice daily and still choose darkness. You can regret your sin deeply, but still miss repentance. The difference between Peter and Judas wasn't the size of their sin. It was where they took their shame. Peter took his shame to Jesus. Judas took his shame to a rope. So here's my question for you. Is there something you've been holding on to? Some betrayal, some secret, some guilt that's eating you alive? The story of Judas is a warning, but the story of Peter is a promise. It's never too late to turn back, as long as you're still breathing. Judas had a choice right up until the end. He could have run to Jesus instead of away from him. And so can you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what struck you most about this story? Was it the kiss? The 30 pieces of silver? The fact that Jesus still called him friend? I'm reading every single comment. And if this story moved you, if it challenged you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the truth is, we're all one choice away from being Judas. And we're all one choice away from being Peter. The question is, which will you choose? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.